All right, looks like we got Instagram on with us. Facebook is on with us. YouTube is still sending data. Oh, we got a few people jumping in. Sin Naughty by Nature, Perpetual Wanderin', D Sanborn. How's everybody doing? So we're waiting for the others to jump online with us. Let me open up the chat real quick. And then we will be good to go. Open in browser. Sin, awesome, good to see you. Hey, thanks for joining tonight, Rod Iverson. How we doing? Why is chat not wanting to catch up with us here? So here on YouTube and Instagram, look at that, Idaho Elk Slayer pulling double duty and hitting both. Slinging sticks. I'm doing good. How are you doing? So Charles Buchanan, I'm doing good. How are you? Looking forward to getting back to our lessons soon. Ready to pick your brains some more. Yeah, Charles, I'm excited to get back going with you. So this is weird. For some reason, the chat's not displaying tonight. So tonight we're going to cover a couple of different things. So Ron Thomas, how you doing? Nicholas Curry, welcome. So okay, now the chats are showing up. We got Nicholas Curry showing in from YouTube. Anybody from Facebook, go ahead and chime in real quick. I want to make sure that the chat's connected for you guys as well. So should be on both. So but anyways, tonight we are going to cover getting optimum performance out of your bow, and then we're also going to talk about setups. So I had a couple of people, when I asked questions about what topics you guys would like to see, there was actually a few people that wanted to talk about setups, and so thought we would do that tonight. And like I said, just like any that's why Restream chat is unavailable. But yeah, so we're going to talk about setups, kind of tips that you can do, and just like always, feel free to go ahead and enter your questions, no matter which platform you guys are joining us from, and hopefully this will be able to. The main chat's not jumping in; they're having an outage somewhere, but we'll make do with what we have over here, and we will just get through it and see how it goes. So a couple of shows coming up. So next week is Portland, and then the week after that is Salt Lake. So definitely looking forward to meeting a lot of you guys in person and gals, and have the opportunity to chit chat. So, all right, Jimmy Dunphy, hello. So I am not sure on this chat over here if this is everybody or not, but it should be pulling from both streams. So let me try one other thing real quick. Never fails. We haven't had technical difficulties for a little while, so we were about due. But this one's not my fault, guys. This one is the restream chat. So we'll just leave that open, let that go there. Okay, just for right now, those of you guys that are tuning in on YouTube or Facebook, just in the chat menu down below, just type in YouTube or Facebook so I can make sure that this chat that I have open here is actually going to work, so that way I don't miss out on any questions. So, but anyways, while waiting for those to come in, yeah, so next week, Portland show, flying in Friday morning, going to be in the Bendable Products booth. I'll be over at Archers Afield booth, you know, maybe a little bit in Phelps booth, so definitely going to be around. And then the following week, I'm actually going to broadcast live from Salt Lake because I fly down Wednesday morning for the Salt Lake show to kind of help set up. And I'm kind of working on a special guest or two. So hopefully that live Q&A Wednesday down there in Salt Lake, have a special guest for you guys. Yeah, okay. So this chat looks like it's just everybody from YouTube. So let me see what I can do here to get the Facebook faithfuls covered, and then we'll get rolling here. So if there's specific things that you guys want to know about with performance, getting the best performance out of your bow, or with setups, go ahead and drop them in the questions now. So Quack, OMG, made it on Instagram. Lots of guys on Facebook have commented. Okay, I'm jumping to the Facebook page now. I'm going to try to do a split screen on that, so that way I can, you know, be sure to cover the chats from everybody. I'm not sure why. Slinging Sticks, I can't make it to Portland, but let Bob at Archers Afield booth know I said hello, please. Slinging Sticks, will do. So, okay. All right, there we go. Facebook video glitching now. Facebook. Not really sure how well this is going to work, but we will just do what we can. So, all right, let's jump into tonight's video. So, smell me not, hello. So, all right. Hey guys, my name is Michael Batiste. I'm from the Elk Calling Academy, and this is Wapiti Wednesday Q&A. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. Kind of the way Wapiti Wednesday Q&A works is I start off with a topic, start talking about that topic, and then throughout the course of it, if you have any questions, you know, feel free to type your questions in the chat. It doesn't matter if you're joining us from YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. You know, we will do the best to answer those as we go along. Also, if this is your first time joining us and you're enjoying the content and you want to know more or find out more, make sure that you like, subscribe, or follow, you know, whichever platform that you're coming from. And that way you're definitely notified each time that we go live and you won't miss out on future videos. So, all right. So, bow performance. One of the questions that I had received last week was, you know, what's better? Is it maybe, you know, is it better to max the bow out on the poundage that it draws, or, you know, back it out? And basically what they were specifically talking about was a 65-pound bow. It's kind of one of those in-betweens. So, you know, what's the better? Is it to get a 70-pound version and back it out? or, get a 60-pound version that may pull at 61.7 or 62, or a 65-pound version and max it out. A bow actually performs better when you have those limb pockets bottomed out. It does kind of a few things. It actually reduces a little bit of the vibration within the bow. Your performance, everything, your limbs just flex a lot better. On the shot, the kind of trampoline effect actually works a lot better. So yeah, if you're looking and you want to be in that 65-pound range, yeah, it's better to get a 65-pound bow if you can. But honestly, really, if you really want that 65, there's not a huge difference between 65 and 70. So, I mean, especially with today's let-offs at 80, 85%, and 90, that extra 5 pounds that you're pulling, once you actually get to that back wall, your holding weight is only, a pound more. So if you have it set at 80%, obviously if it's 85 or 90%, it's going to be less. So, bragging board, Andy, Facebook is junk right now. Lots of comments, but glitching out. I say again, what's up, Michael? Andy, how you doing? Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe it's a Facebook issue, but tried it but couldn't get sound. Okay. So, I mean, there's kind of a few comments in there, but I don't know what's going on. But here's a quick question from the Facebook group. So, Dave wants to know, would switching from my 100 grain tips to 125 grain tips be sufficient to provide increased FOC? Yes, even that little bit of change right there, bumping up that 25 grains, is going to increase your FOC. Quack, I like it. Facebook hates beards. I actually thought about shaving the beard off the other day and going back to the goatee, but I've had this beard for so long, and a lot of you only know me with the beard, that if you saw me, I probably look quite different. You'd think I'd look strange with just the goatee, but yeah, I rocked the goatee for years. So, but yes, so just even bumping up that 25 grains, that can actually change your FOC just a little bit. I listened to a podcast last week, I think it was, on Point with Garrett Weaver. Garrett was talking with Brian from Perpetual Wander. Okay, Lena, I won't shave it. I'll leave the beard. Notice it's still here. So, but he was talking to Brian from Deep Six, and Brian made a really, really good point that really got me thinking. And it kind of goes right in line with what we were talking about with FOC, that, remember, I like to stay in that 15 to 17 range, not excessive, or 14 to 16, just roughly right in there. The thing when you get really, really heavy FOC, and listening to Brian, and I really recommend that you guys go and listen to this podcast, but the point is yeah, you can have a lot of FOC on the front of your arrow. But the problem is because of that excessive weight out front, now you have a light tail end. So yeah, the front's not affected by wind as much, but that back end, the knock end, is now all of a sudden light, and that can be affected by wind. Is that really a big deal? It is, because now instead of hitting your target straight on and having that knock right behind the broadhead and keeping that momentum and that penetration, you're now off kilter, and you actually lose some of that momentum. You actually lose some of that penetration capability. So, what he really talked about was a heavier arrow with a lower FOC. And he actually basically put it as a good rule of thumb, if you're in that 28, 29 inch draw, about 8 pounds per Hunt Dorning's tech tip, beards kill elk. So I've killed them with both, though. So I've always had some sort of facial hair. So I can't really, I can't really say if the beard has made it better or less. I do know that, I always pretty much grew the beard in throughout September, just because I don't like face nets. I don't like face masks. But anyways, okay. Redirect. Sorry guys, I've got squirrel syndrome tonight. So, but that heavier arrow, and what he talks about is kind of a good rule of thumb is 8 grains for every pound that you pull. So if you're pulling a 70-pound bow, you want your arrow to be in that about that 560 grain mark, to really get maximum performance and good penetration. So, Quack, I have never heard that before in my life, that I have a face for radio, but thank you for bringing that back up. So, all right. So, like I said, it just really got the wheels turning, and I haven't played with it yet. So I've been shooting the X impacts right now. I am thinking about bringing in a dozen of the deep impacts, kind of setting them up with the same way that I have now, and just kind of testing the two. So I may do that for you guys. I may bring in deep impacts, and because my current setup right now is 474 grains with about 15 or 16.2% FOC, and with bringing in the deep impacts, I think it's going to put me right up around 560 grains with the current setup. I'll have to get it set up and see exactly where my FOC comes in, but I think that'll be a good test. I'll bring those in and test them for you guys, and we'll do some side by side comparisons. So. Okay, we got all kinds of comments rolling in here. So, smell me not. How important is neutralizing masking scent when big game hunting, especially elk, is bigger game, more sensitive to human body odor? Here's a good rule of thumb to go with. You're never going to be 100% scent free. I don't care what you do. I don't care how well you take care of your clothes, all that. You are never, ever going to be 100% scent free. So the number one rule of thumb is always play the wind. If you always keep the wind in your favor and you always play the wind, your chances for success are going to be dramatically. Because if you always play the wind and have the wind in your favor, you're never going to get smelt. It doesn't matter what level of scent control you use. All right, new hunter here buying a bow. What should I look for in a bow? Willing to spend the money for a quality bow that will last. Manuel Lopez, great question. Here's the best piece of advice I can give you. Figure out the budget. How much money do you have to spend on a bow? Go into the archery shop and shoot every bow within your budget, because each bow is going to be different. The draw cycle, the valley, the wall, the grip, hand shock, all that is going to be different. And by you choosing a budget and then shooting all the bows, you basically let the bow choose you. And it's going to match your shooting style, because everybody's a little bit different on how they draw, how they shoot. I mean, just everything is different. By you letting the bow choose you, it's going to be a much better fit, and you're going to enjoy shooting that bow a lot more. So, Quack, you will never fool their nose. True, good rule of thumb. Perfect. So, you can grab last year's models for really good prices this time of year, so don't rule them out. Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, everybody right now is focused on, the 2019 bows. And yes, I am doing head-to-head bow battles. I know we launched the first video a couple of weeks ago. This Friday, the next matchup goes live. And this matchup is the Bowtech Realm SR6 versus the Prime CT5. I was surprised by this one. So, but that video will go live Friday. All right, let's see, what else do we got? What's a price range I should stay in, Scott? Okay. Manuel, you're actually talking to Sling and Sticks, stay in the price range you can easily afford. Okay. Andy, that's your problem. You need some facial hair. I like it. So, bugle me this. I just built arrows. From what I understand, a good FOC is in the 9 to 15% range. I calculated mine at 12%. You mentioned 16 to 17. What's your opinion on a good FOC? Really, that is a tough question, and that's going to be a debate because you're going to get answers across the board. You're going to have some people that are, um, you need to stay in that 14 to 15 range. Other people are like, oh no, you need to be closer up to 20. But really, it's what shoots well for your bow. And for me, it's not just FOC. There's a lot of factors, and we've talked about this before. For me, it's FOC, speed, kinetic energy, and momentum. It's all those factors that I try to stay within this window for my setup. Now, this year, like I said, with the current setup, I did go over the 16% FOC. It's the first time I've ever been over 16%. Usually in the past, I hover more around that 15%, but so far they're flying really, really well. Penetration has been good on them. I really haven't noticed much much at all from those. So, all right. Me personally, I shoot Hoyt. I've owned Bowtech's Diamond, but I like the wall on 90% of the Hoyt Bows. Easy draw. Thoughts on Easton carbon injections? They're a good arrow. So there's a lot of good arrows and good choices on the market, guys. So you really can't go wrong. The thing I would say about arrows is don't skimp on arrows. So those are critical. Spend a little bit more and get good arrows. Reason is the type of carbon in them, the weave, and everything that they've done. Your tolerances and your strength and your stiffness and everything are going to be more even across the board if you spend that little bit of extra money. So, what is the valley in the wall? So, the wall is when you come to full draw, and it's that wall at full draw. So you'll hear some have a good solid wall or not, no wall at all. And what that means is if you draw back an anchor, if you have a good wall, you can actually settle in. You can relax into that wall. It's not going to start creeping. If you have no wall at all, and in the past, a lot of speed bows had no wall. So as soon as you anchored in and you started relaxing, that bow started creeping forward. And with a lot of those speed bows, once they started creeping forward, man, you weren't stopping them. So not at all. So let's see. Added footers. What's the best loop, string, or metal, and why? I've always shot with string on my loop. So just because I shoot a T release or a thumb release, and so when I come back and anchor and that hand turns, I also shoot a little bit longer D loop so that when I do turn my hand, it's not torquing the string at all. So should have a good bow, have a wall. Yes. So because the thing about having a good wall is there's going to be times that you're going to draw on an elk and you're going to have to sit there for a while. And the ability to relax you a little bit and not have it creep forward. So Prime's wall is solid. Yes, it is. So my PSE X-Force has no wall. Yeah. Why didn't more elk hunters use two-blade broadheads? We shoot Magnus Stinger buzz cut, and they are downright deadly, pass through big Roosevelts every time with big entrance and exit wounds. So I kind of talked about this in the past. The thing with just a two-blade single bevel broadhead, you're right, they are a good head, unless you, personal experience, unless you're shooting some pretty good speeds. Faster speeds, they can tend to plane a little bit, and that's where a 3-blade or a 4-blade actually kind of benefits over a 2-blade. The thing about broadheads, I mean, that's like me saying, okay, guys, we're going to get on this call. We're going to get on this chat tonight. And nobody is getting off until all of us agree 100% on every piece of equipment. That's bows, sight, rest, arrows, broadheads, vanes, everything. Nobody's getting off until we all agree. It's never going to happen. And really, as far as a broadhead goes, you need to find what shoots well for your bow. You need to shoot what works well for your setup and what you have confidence in. Confidence is the biggest thing. So if you have confidence in your setup, it's just going to come out in that shot. So, okay, let's switch gears. Let's talk about setups. So, because I only wanted to touch bows a little bit tonight, I wanted to spend more time on setups. So, but you guys are throwing out some good questions. So, oh, time out. I am going to answer this one question from Slinging Sticks. Do you prefer having your sight extended out further rather than close, and why? I actually prefer having my sight closer to the riser. Reason being is when you start putting that sight farther out, if you have any torque at all on your bow, the farther your sight is away from your riser, that torque is basically multiplied, it's magnified out there because it's farther away and it's moving farther. So I like having it closer up. So because I mean, there are times you are going to have a little torque on your bow. Maybe it's because you're having to get in an awkward position to shoot or this or that. But then it also depends on how big, your sight housing is. How big is your peep? Those are all kind of the equations that come in on how far you move that sight out. But for me personally, I like to have it kind of as close as possible. So, okay. Setups. So setups are one of the things that are really, really critical. And I know it's kind of tough when we're just sitting here talking about it. Once this white stuff up in the mountains gets the heck out of here and I'm able to get up there, I am going to take the camera up there and actually do a lot of videos to actually show you setups out there. These are videos that we'll probably throw over on our Patreon page. So make sure that you guys go over and, become a patron and get really some fine details on that. I mean, I will put some of the videos up on YouTube, but a lot of this. So now the thing with setups, and this is where it's going to be kind of a few different thoughts or ideas on this. I know some people, once they have a bull engaged, the caller will stay and they'll send the shooter out front to pick shooting lanes and this and that. I'm kind of the opposite. I always like to know where my shooter is, because when I know where my shooter is, then me as the caller, I can adjust back there to my left or to my right to make sure that I'm bringing that bull by my shooter on the upwind side. I don't have to worry or guess, man, where is he at? Am I bringing the bull in on the the right corridor? All that kind of stuff. So that's one of the first things that we do. Once we get a bull engaged and we get close enough, and close enough, I mean, depending on the terrain you're hunting or how thick the vegetation is, there's a lot of variables on that. But once we get set, once we're in there, I'm going to, we typically find, okay, this is where the shooter is going to be. And we look for a few factors. We kind of look for natural corridors. If there's a game trail, if there's a heavily used game trail, perfect. The elk already feel comfortable using that game trail. That's why that game trail is there, is because they're using it. And there's things that you want to avoid between the shooter and the bull. So you don't want a wall of brush. You don't want, a blowdown patch that looks like somebody dumped out a bunch of Lincoln logs. Elk just don't like crossing that stuff. The wall of brush, again, chances of them getting through it. Open meadows. The chance of pulling an elk across an open meadow, I'm not going to say that it can't happen, but the chances of it happening are a lot lower. So, but we will also, so these natural funnels, you can use the topography of the land. If there is brush in the area, you can actually use the wall of the brush to, set it up so that the shooter's by that wall of brush, and then the caller's going to bring that bull above or below that wall of brush, depending on which way the wind's going. Use those things to your advantage. Now, once we kind of have that, and this will make a lot more sense when I'm actually out there in the field and I have the camera and I can really show you, okay, this is what I'm looking at, this is what I'm analyzing, and this and that. And it's kind of hard to picture when we're just talking here. But so once we have that selected, the one thing I'm going to do as the caller is I'm going to look back to the direction that the caller is going. And I'm going to try to see as far as I can. As far as I can see, the caller is going to go to that spot and then go another 25 or 30 yards past that. Because basically that bull is going to come up to the spot that he thinks he should be able to see that caller. Well, basically that hang up spot, that's where I'm setting my shooter. I'm banking on that bull coming to that spot. And the reason that I don't just stop at that last spot that I can see. So when I'm looking, I'm going to pick out a tree or a bush or something the farthest out that I can see, and that's my navigational beacon when I start dropping back to call is I'm heading towards that tree or I'm heading to the bush. The reason I go another 25 yards or so past that is because elk's eyesight through the woods is a little better than ours. So that's why I'm going to extend that just a little bit more. And honestly, I don't want him to just get right to that spot where my shooter is and stop. I actually want him thinking that he's going to continue on past and give that shooter, because things can happen. He can get to that hang up spot and stop, and there's a tree covering the vitals or, something. Getting it set up to where he moves through that setup spot really gives the shooter the opportunity to cow call and stop him in those windows. But the other thing that shooter should be doing is while I'm dropping back, he should be getting ranges with his rangefinder. And so he should be automatically picking his yardage trees and also his draw spots. Meaning he's looking over this area, and if this bull comes in here, I'm going to draw there. If he comes down this little way, I'm going to draw there. So that way, as soon as the bull starts committing, he already has those spots picked. He knows when he's going to draw. He knows where he's going to stop that bull. And these are all things that kind of come with experience. So you can, read about them, watch about them. But I mean, really, it's a feeling that you get. So by watching their behaviors and coming in, and that just comes with, interactions after interactions after interactions. So let me jump over here. I'm still just jumping back and forth just because the one is only pulling comments. So Isaac, what is your take on people who want to slow play the elk and not go in and get aggressive with calling and setups? So, sometimes, Isaac, you have to slow play. That's the thing with elk hunting. There is not a one style fits every situation. So, prime example, okay? So you're saying just go in and get aggressive. What if this bull is not in that mindset? What if this bull is not in that aggressive mindset? And you start moving in and getting aggressive with him, what do you think that bull is going to do? So we've all heard it. We've all heard people talk about, I was working this bull and I would move in and he would back off, and I would move in and he would back off. And in fact, last night I was doing a lesson and we were talking about that. And it's, to put it into human context is, imagine if you walk down the main street, okay, in your town, you're walking down the sidewalk. Every person that you come across, you challenge to a fight. What's going to happen? What kind of reactions? Is every single person going to just jump in and be willing to fight? Or is it that you're going to have to challenge several people before you finally find that person that's had a really bad day and they accept your challenge? So, same thing with elk. Elk have different mindsets. They have different moods just like we do. So if you're just aggressive with them, it's one of those things that you kind of have to feel each situation out. So yeah, slow playing. Yeah, slow playing can be a very beneficial thing, and we've done that, and really throughout the course of really working a bull, you will kind of go from slow playing to raise their aggression level to get to that aggressive state. So, but not every encounter with a bull gets to that aggressive state. So, let's see. Charles, what do you mean patron page? Charles, we actually started a Patreon page. It's Patreon page. There's 3 different tiers with monthly memberships, and each tier has different benefits to it, basically. So if you guys haven't been over there to the Patreon page, just head over there. I'll put it down in the comment section down below after this when we're done. So, Scott, if there's an obstacle like blowdowns, a brush choke creek, etc., between you and the bull, is it worth taking a chance on getting busted while trying to get on the other side of the obstacle? That is one of those things, Scott, that you kind of have to feel the situation out. If you're moving in on a bull and you get caught in a situation that is not an optimum spot to set up and start calling, sometimes it's better just to go quiet, let that elk move off a little bit so that you can get through those obstacles and get to a better setup spot that your chances for call-ins are increased. So where you set up is really, really critical. So game changers, glitchy. Yeah, a lot of people have been talking about Facebook being really glitchy tonight. So I'm not sure. So okay, what's the best way to blow a raghorn away before herd bull comes in? That is the $1,000,000 question. So some of those times it's almost you can push that raghorn off, but you have to do it the right way. You have to make sure that that raghorn goes the right direction. The last thing you want to do is spook that raghorn to where he throws his nose up in the air and trots back in the direction that that herd bull is coming from, because that nose in the air is a defensive warning posture. And so really sometimes you may have to go quiet a little bit, let that raghorn really work around you, really looking for the elk that's making the noise. And then at that point, when you know it's safe, then do something to booger that raghorn the opposite direction. And you can use that to your advantage, because when you booger that raghorn off, then you can do some bull sounds in your setup that makes it sound like, especially with us, where we really focus on the breeding sequence. So it's not uncommon if you go on YouTube and just kind of watch some videos and there's a hot cow going on, and you'll see this bull that is constantly running off younger bulls and smaller bulls that are trying to come in on this hot cow. Well, that's basically what you did with this raghorn. Is that raghorn got around, and then you basically chased it off and do some bull sounds, kind of some chuckles, some grunts, maybe rake on a tree, showing some dominance to give that appearance that you're the herd bull with this hot cow, and you just ran that raghorn off. So best way, you can do a lot of things. You can wave your arms, you can step out from behind a tree, but you got to be careful and make sure that that herd bull is not in position to where he can see you doing this stuff too. So let's see, from Instagram, Game Changer. I was excited to be the first one on. I get booted. Was certain I was getting a prize for being first. Oh, you guys in prizes and giveaways. By the way, I did set up another giveaway that I will be announcing in a few days. I think you guys will kind of be interested in this one. So, all right, slinging sticks. I'm a solo hunter 96% of the time due to my brother-in-law skipping out on me. I've had cows respond and come closer to about 60 yards and stop, but wouldn't come closer, and the bull wouldn't either. Solo hunting is tough because you are the caller, you are the shooter, you are all of that. And that's where it's choosing your setup or where you're going to do this is critical. And a lot of times, if you can use the topography of the land, like if you have a ridge where you have that peak and that bull's over on this side, you're on this side where you're calling low enough, but then you got to have time to stop calling and then get up elevation, because he's probably kind of come up to that top to be able to see down where that elk is making noise from. Now, sometimes it may be that, you have to let that bull come in, lose interest, turn and go out, and you call and move up. So you call and move, call and move, call and move, and you may have to do it 3, 4, 5 times. I think, there was a bull several years ago that I think I had to do this 6 times before finally, and he kept coming back to the same exact spot every time, because he knew it was comfortable. He knew it was safe. He had already traveled on that corridor. He had traveled to that spot and back. And so yeah, hunting solo can be the most frustrating, but also the most rewarding. And again, I wish we weren't in this winter time. I wish could be outside and really explain these a lot more. Just know that there's videos coming up that will show this, a lot more out there. Nicholas Curry, what do you think of decoys? They can be a great tool, especially if you are hunting solo. The tricky thing with decoys, though, is a lot of them on the market you have to mess with poles, or if you set the decoy up and you call and then move forward, if you want to move up again, then you have to call back and get the decoy, go up to where you're going to call from, set the decoy there, call and move up. So it is one of those things, but decoys can be highly effective. One of the ones that I really like, especially for solo hunters, is the Ultimate Predator Gear decoy, because it mounts right on the front of your bow. So, which makes it nice, because then you have that decoy with you all the time. So you're calling and moving and calling and moving. And that Ultimate Predator Gear, it has a great big window in the middle that your sight goes through, your arrow and everything, but it has the decoy around it. So it's a shoot-through decoy. It's not affected by the wind that much. I've actually used it out turkey hunting and antelope hunting and elk hunting. But it is a very, very good decoy to use if you're solo hunting. Now, the cool thing about that same decoy is if you're on a 2-on-1 scenario where you have caller shooter versus the bull, that caller can actually kind of turn that Ultimate Predator Gear decoy into a handheld decoy. And you can add a little bit of movement to it just by flexing your wrist a little bit. And you do have the option of using the Velcro, of strapping it around a tree and putting that decoy on a tree if you want, that portion. So a lot of versatility with that decoy right there. So, slinging sticks, how am I able to get them closer? I assume when you're solo, how to get them closer. That's one of the things where, like I said, you have to call and move and really, really choose your setups. When you're solo, you want to try to be in a little bit thicker timber and vegetation, so that they have to come closer. So they can't stop 60, 70, 80 yards out and be able to see where that call is coming from. They have to come 40 yards. And so this is where I was talking about. So you're set up, you're making the sound, and then you kind of do this half moon and you move up 15 yards. Well, if he has to come 40 yards from where you called, well, if you moved up 15, now you're only 25 yards away from that bull. So solo, your choice of setup locations is even more critical. So, Charles, what is the page you were talking about? So, Charles, yeah, that's that. So it's Patreon, Patreon.com is the website. And then in the search, just type in Elk Calling Academy, and that will take you to our page. So, I love the Ultimate Predator decoy. Bought one for speed goats too. I'm usually solo filming as well, so movement is limited. Brad, That is tough right there. So you're the shooter, the caller, and the cameraman. Man, that is tough, tough, tough. Scott, exactly why I'm looking for a partner. Call for each other. Yes. Um, Eric, I'm also way more successful when I hunt by myself. You have the ability to move and call the way you want to without interference. Yeah, and solo can be highly successful. It's it, you're kind of right on that where you have the control. You don't have to rely on anybody. But I'll tell you what, guys, you find the right hunting partner, and I mean it's awesome because you guys can communicate just by looking at each other. You don't even really have to discuss things out because you guys have been in so many scenarios together that you just kind of flow through it. So let's see from Instagram. When setting up on a ridge solo hunting, how far down from the peak do you set up? Herd 100, 200 yards and work way up, doing what you just described. Well, there's a few factors there. I mean, it depends how far down that bull is on the backside. So, because if he's way down on the backside, you obviously don't want to drop too far off on that backside because he's not going to be able to hear you. So it's it's again there's not excuse me there's not this one size fits all, do this same exact thing in every setup, every situation. Um, it's a lot of factors. It's a lot of calculating. But what you definitely want to do is, you can get kind of up on top of that ridge where you broadcast your sound over so he can hear you, and then once he's committed, then you can move to that backside edge and broadcast your calls off the opposite way. Well, that bull's just basically going to think that now you're going off that opposite way, and the chances of him coming all the way up to the top to peek over is a lot better because ultimately that's what you want to do with those ridge tops is you want to broadcast your sound off the backside to get him to come all the way up to the top and have to peek over that other side. Plus, especially in the mornings with thermals blowing down, you want to hang on that backside so your thermals are blowing down off the backside and not on the same side as the bull. So these are all factors that you kind of have to take into with a lot of these situations and scenarios. So to come join the party on the Patreon page, Andy. I like it. So I've tried, can't get a response from them. Showed them trail cam pics and everything. It's even on one elk hunt. I wonder if that's in response to somebody else. So Charles, that's how I got my bull exactly. Yeah. So Charles is actually Elk Calling Academy student. We've done a few one-on-one lessons together, and we kind of talked about that. So my wife is going to be my hunting partner this year. We will be signing up for your couples therapy soon. Scott, look forward to it. So, okay. So the other question that I get a lot with setups is how far should the caller move behind, the shooter? And again, it's variable. It depends. How thick is the vegetation? How open is the vegetation? What are the thermals doing? Where are you at? And all these things kind of come into play. So if you always go with that rule of thumb that when you are there with the shooter and you look back at the farthest distance that you can see and then you move back to that, it doesn't matter how thick the vegetation is, you're going to kind of be at about the right distance to pull that bull into the hang up spot where your shooter is hanging out. So because the thing to remember is when you're in thicker, denser timber, your call doesn't carry as much. And that's another thing that video that I'm going to do for you guys is, again, another thing that a lot of people struggle with is trying to guess that distance. How far away is that bull? Again, it's just something that comes with experience. It comes with time. And you're never going to be 100%. You're never going to hear a bugle and go, man, that bull is 652 yards away from us right now. And it's rough guesstimates. So, but then you also get into the equation, is the bull facing you? Is he facing away from you? Because that's going to have an effect on how loud his bugle is, when he's calling to you. Obviously, when he's facing your direction, that bugle is going to be a lot louder than if he's, facing it away. All right, Mountain Tough Outdoors, welcome, welcome. How you doing? Um, Charles, looking for Western Washington. Charles, I still remember your request from a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about hunting partners, so I still need to find that. So, like that hat, send me one. LOL, it's Q&A, right? Had to ask. Good info as always. Bubba, thank you. Yes, this is a new hat color combo that we have in right now. This is the only one. This is kind of a sample. I wanted to see how it turned out. But a lot of you guys are kind of liking it. So this may be the next hat that we bring in with the color combo. So Robert Gonzalez, use elk, bulls, or cows. You are not going to hunt to see what you can get away with. Call, move, walk away, see how they react. You'll learn more from those experiences. Exactly. So, and so the question came up earlier about the raghorn. So let's say you're in a setup, a bull does come in, and let's say it's early in the season, and you kind of, your goal for the season is I want to shoot a 6-point. I want to shoot a 6-point or better. With that raghorn in there, if you're not going to harvest that bull, that is a great time to practice and play around. See what movements you can get away with. See exactly what you can get away with that elk at different distances. Now, granted, it is going to vary a little bit from bull to bull because it depends, if they're coming in a relaxed state or if they're coming in a on guard state. But you will get a level of experience. Because I remember when I first started, and I'm sure, Robert has had tremendous success in the elk woods. He can probably attest to this too. When we first started elk hunting, man, as soon as that bull came in, we were a statue. We were afraid to almost breathe. We were afraid to blink because it was like, oh my God, he's going to see me. But you as the shooter, if you're set up in a shadow situation with something behind you that breaks your silhouette up, you guys will really be amazed with the movement that you can get away with. But the key thing is slow, methodical movements is better than fast twitch movements. But just play with those situations and see what you guys can get away with. So, all right. Noticed a couple more questions from Facebook. What diaphragm is my best bet, being someone who is still learning to use one? So, Chris, the best diaphragm that you can get as a beginner is a single light latex, meaning it's a thinner latex. It's not a heavy reed. It's a thin latex. It has a light stretch. It doesn't take much pressure at all to control that. Each company out there has a single light latex. They have reeds that are designed for beginners. So if you're shopping on whatever manufacturer you prefer, read the description of the diaphragm reed. If you see one that says single light latex, a lot of the companies now on their websites are putting, I definitely know Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls is doing this on a lot of their reeds, whether it's for a beginner, intermediate, or advanced. So that's some good tips to help you select, which reed is best for you as a beginner. So, but single light latex is what you want. All right. Scott, if you hear a bugle in the distance, say 1,000 yards, do you wait for visual confirmation that it's a real bull before closing the distance? No, not always, because sometimes we're hunting in areas that we would never have that visual confirmation. I'm going to start working my way that direction, and I'm really going to be listening, to those bugles, because there are times where you hear a bugle and you'll be like, man, is that a bull? Is it a person? Because at longer distances, all you hear is that high note. You don't hear the bottom end on it. The bottom end is one of the things, the bottom ends and chuckles are two things that will really separate human and live elk. So sometimes you have to move a little bit closer to get to that threshold to where you can hear that bottom end and go, okay, yeah, that's a bull, or nope, that's a person. So no, sometimes we'll actually start working that direction, because basically any bugle we hear, we're basically going to start working that direction until we rule it out. Unless, without a doubt, that as soon as we hear it, yep, that's a person. And sometimes it's that easy. So, hunt slogan, do you duck hunt? I used to waterfowl hunt quite a bit, so I haven't really waterfowl hunt in quite a few years. So, okay, yeah, that's a sweet looking hat. Charles, any way other than Facebook to buy products from Elk Calling Academy? Not right now. The Facebook store is the only one, but we are working on changing that. So there's a couple of things that we're working on. So we want to make it easier for you guys to be able to purchase the swag. So I knew it was going to come out. Doug Flutie, and Brian, thank you. I almost used the Doug Flutie term earlier. So Nicholas Curry, trust your camo. Absolutely. And that is one of the hardest things for new elk hunters to do is trust in their camo, trust in their setup. So I don't know how many times have heard it, especially from new people, that, man, as soon as that bull came in, he pegged me. He knew I was there. Well, it's not necessarily that he pegged you. It's you're standing in the shadow. You're standing in front of something with your silhouette. They know their forest pretty well. It's not like they immediately locked in on you and was like, ooh, that's a human. It's like, ooh, I don't remember that stump being there before, or I don't remember that bush being there before. That's more what's really going on. So I started with Native by Carlton Blue, good beginner call. So yeah, Larry, the blue is another good, if you want the Native by Carlton, the Rip It Red and the Rip It Black. Those are both singles that are really, really good. So, all right, we had some others. I have been looking for calling/behavior only type YouTube videos like you suggest. Haven't found any decent ones. Any suggestion? So, Hillbilly, really the thing with that is and when I was talking about the videos, it was more so just watching the elk. It's not really hunting videos. RMEF has some videos. There's videos of elk in Rocky Mountain National Park. But it's just watching the animal's behavior. What's their body language doing when they're making these different sounds, and correlating their body language to human body language will kind of help you kind of figure out some of that meanings. So, and that's one of the things that, we do in our lessons, is really go through the different sounds, what they are, what they mean, how to do them. So, but you can most certainly, do that by watching the videos. So, wow, is it that time really? So the countdown clock just started on Instagram. So we have about a minute and a half left. So my buddy really wants to use diaphragms, but his palate is weird, so it doesn't fit the Phelps calls I use. Recommendations: just have him try some different, manufacturers. Rocky Mountain Hunting calls. I remember when I was with Rocky, there was a gentleman that worked at a Sportsman's Warehouse in northern Idaho and had to actually make him some special diaphragms. So if your buddy tries a couple of different manufacturers, they can't find one that really fits, have them, get on the phone and talk to those manufacturers. They might have to custom something. So, all right, so we're going to do this. Since the countdown, we have a minute left. We're going to wind this down for tonight. I know there's a lot more questions. I'm going to write these down. We will jump into some of these questions next week. Friday's video is the next head-to-head bow battle. And next week, I will see you guys at the Northwest Sportsman Show in Portland. Definitely stop by, come see us. I will have shirts and hats with me. So, as always, guys, I appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Really love all the questions tonight. I've still got a ton more to get through. I will make sure I get these written down so that we can jump into them next week. So, all right, guys, as always, keep calling, keep practicing. Most importantly, though, have fun while you're doing it. We will see you guys next week on the next episode of Wapiti Wednesday Live Q&A. Have a great week, everybody.